Hello everybody, welcome back to the Chaos Terminal. My name is Michael, and today on the channel we're going to try to find 20 chests to open, and I'm going to give you 20 tips. So stick around, because at the end of the video we find this really interesting spot with a couple of chests we don't open. We're still pretty new to making LEGO Fortnite content, so if there's something you want to see from us, leave us a comment down below. And without further ado, let's find some chests. Alright, we're starting in the Lost Isles. We're over at one of the Tomato Head shrines. Your first tip here is if you're going to get the chest from the shrine, be prepared to either run or fight, because this guy's going to pop out, and they're one of the harder things to fight in the game. That's relatively speaking. The game's not that difficult. Tip number 2 is when you find broken structures like this one, don't necessarily destroy it all for loot, because sometimes there's some really cool things like this that you will want to have saved later for building around. Tip number 3 is going to be around these prefab vehicles. Adding balloons and thrusters to any of them like that one had really makes it easy to get around the map without doing a ton of work. Tips 4 and 5 I'm clumping together. These Lost Isle chests are really the best chests in the game because they drop these books, but the next tip is to not read all of the books all at once. And tip 6 involves some of this loot we're getting here, like the ruby pick. You're not going to want to really make ruby picks so long as you can get them free from this chest, just for how expensive rubies are. Tip number 7 involves the height limit in this game. I don't know if you saw just a second ago, but you can not go higher than this point. See there? Tip number 8 is about the flint-knock pistol. Between it and the grappler, I prefer it for traversing around the map. The only downside is you gotta reload it like that. Tip number 9 involves these caves in the Lost Isles. We're not going to go in one today, but if you ever need emerald or gold or the occasional golem rift shard, they're a great place to look. Now, I like these as much as the next guy, but you do have to be careful. The rollers and the exploding rollers will knock you back off of the floating islands. Now, this tip might just be my own experience, but I find that these fish stick golems are the hardest to fight. Then the tomato heads and the peely golems are the easiest ones. Tip number 12 still involves these golems. The simplest way to take them out on these floating islands is to just lead them off the edge. They actually do take fall damage, and you'll see here, when he finally hits the ground, he's just gonna shatter. See him crumble, and there's the loot. Tip number 13 has us looking at our vehicles again. Whether or not you're using the prefabs, if you're planning on making your vehicle fly, you will want to put your driver's seat in the center for balance purposes. And just like the ruby pick from earlier, the ruby sword is very useful. You'll want to save that rather than spend ruby to make it. But if you run out of item space, you're always going to want to drop things like wood and vine, because that stuff replenishes. Just for fun, we're going to lead another golem off the edge here. This time, instead of following it, I'm going to give you guys your next tip, which is to grab a vehicle and go grab the loot later. It's not going to despawn on you, but that way you're not trapped in the ocean with no stamina. And tip number 15 is my favorite way to get silk, and it's literally just these spider nests. What I'll do is I'll just bring an NPC along, and I will stand up on the edge and let him take out all the spiders. And tip number 16, there is a difference between these two books. The prop tome gives you new recipes for building things, and the rune tome allows you to get different runes for your essence table. Really quickly, number 17 is to just do your adventuring during the day. And number 18, what are you supposed to do with this floating chest besides just open it? 19, over in the Lost Isles, you're going to find these little islands scattered around that have nothing on them but a single chest. They're great places to find loot like these. just like the ruby sword and pickaxe, the gem shield is incredibly useful, but you're not going to want to waste gems making it. But number 21, that vehicle, I just dropped it in the ocean there, but the reason I'm not worried about losing it is I threw a map marker on it. That way, no matter what happens, I can always find my car again. Number 22, if you're looking to get better at LEGO Fortnite or just have more fun with the game, I would recommend joining some Discords, subscribing to some YouTube channels. That's kind of where I found a lot of these tips. Now, the llamas don't count as chests, but I'll still give you guys a tip here. The blue and purple ones do not give that good of loot. The Star Wars chests give great loot. I even got a blue lightsaber out of this one. Can't see it super well in the dark, but the gold llamas are going to give you much better loot than the blue and purple, but nowhere near as good as the gold chests and whatnot. And then this was just a random white chest I found upside down, but it still had a sword in it. And that brings us to this. I'm not sure what we're looking at here, but I found these two chests with this, like, I don't know, broken, what looks like a pirate ship almost, but futuristic. In my headcanon, this is where the storm minions came from. They crash landed here and set up shop. Here's where it is on my map, kind of near the Storm Chaser village, kind of near the Rebel Island. If you guys have anything like this in your world, leave me a comment down below. I'll be sure to respond to everyone's comments. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching.